My name is Esther Lavielle, and we are starting our very first Keys to Success series. And so, of course, anytime you do something for the very first time, there's always bound to have a few issues here and there, but I'm glad we're able to capture that. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post those into the chat box. I'll be happy to capture that and answer questions along the way, but most of the questions I'll get to towards the end of the training session today. So with the first Keys to Success series, we really just wanted to focus in today on the conjoint analysis tool that is by Question Pro. This is intentioned for those who have never used conjoint before, and you'll also be able to see how you can use it in terms of practical applications and what insights you would get from it. So our agenda is: what is discrete choice conjoint analysis? Do you conjoint? Why you should? Conjoint o'clock, best time to run a conjoint study. Question Pro's 3-in-1 design options, as well as best practices for discrete choice conjoint project design. And we'll also go over conjoint analysis, the frequently asked questions from the analytics standpoints in terms of what kind of an analysis I can get from this, and then also do a live demo of how to conjoint with using the platform that we have, and then open up the session for any Q&A. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to post those in the chat and question box in GoToWebinar. So let's go ahead and get started here. Just 1 second here. So what is conjoint analysis, and particularly discrete choice conjoint analysis? It is a type of trade-off analysis methodology, and it's been developed over the past 50 years by market researchers and statisticians to predict the kinds of decisions consumers or customers will make about products or services by using questions in a survey. So think about it as being the supermarket conundrum, where you're standing there trying to decide what box of cereal you're looking to purchase for your family. Conjoint analysis questions present a series of possible products or service options to the customer and ask them, which one to make a choice, which choice would they pick? So the central idea of conjoint is for any purpose or any purchase decision, consumers evaluate or trade off and what different characteristics of a product and decide, what's more important to them. So with what we use here at Question Pro, we use discrete choice conjoint analysis, which is the #1 methodology used for consumer purchase decisions. It best simulates the purchasing decision making process for customers, and it can be applied to both the B2B and B2C world. Let's go here. So do you conjoint, and why you should be? The very first reason why you would want to do that is that it offers an opportunity for you to test new product ideas and evaluate, how it could possibly perform against existing ranges of products in the marketplace. So for instance, if you are a company that is looking to add a new product or service and you want to see how it would do among your target audience, what you would do is use conjoint analysis and build several products and services and show them against ones that are existing and see how they resonate with the existing audience. So if you have customers or you have prospective customers that you're trying to capture in terms of market share, this is a great way to do that without putting too much energy into the innovation process and actually building out a protocol or beta testing. Conjoint analysis at this point is a great way to get started. Second, it's also very budget friendly. It's much cheaper than developing new products for the marketplace with no guarantee of success. I know that, for a lot of customers, sometimes we don't realize that we can test ideas and concepts before we actually bring them to market. or it just seems like it's too expensive to do, but really it doesn't have to be if you use conjoint analysis. The great thing about discrete choice conjoint analysis is that it simulates customer decision making. Captures how your target audience reacts to new products and services within the marketplace, and it also refines the target audience for your study. So it's in order for a conjoint study to be successful, you do want to make sure that you have the right kind of target audience in place or in mind, or work with a company such as Question Pro Audience to get you the right people that you want to show this conjoint study to. A lot of times with conjoint, people think it's going to take a lot of time, but in reality, it really doesn't take that much time, especially when you're using a very integrated tool such as Question Pro. You can get the data quick. You don't have to wait. You can get the real-time feedback that you need, similar to how you get feedback from any kind of online survey tool. And then you'll be able to do any filtering and segmentation based on the different variations of the products that you're looking to test. And last but not least, you can also be able to analyze the choice versus the dollars. So what that means is basically looking at the different attributes among conjoint to gauge the effects of different choices among the price and what the cost of overhead is relative to potential revenue and market share that you're looking to grow in. Question Pro does offer 3-in-1 design options, even though we specialize in just the discrete choice conjoint analysis tool. Within the discrete choice conjoint analysis, we have three design options that you can pick. So one is the random design, which is our most popular among our Question Pro customers because it's easy to program, it's easy to analyze the data, and it's easy to include in a comprehensive survey. One thing that a lot of our customers like is not only can you run a conjoint study, but if you want to do a net promoter score and tie it with customer satisfaction and really get a full picture of what your target audience would like, you can do that without insinuating any response fatigue. And you can make it comprehensive and easy to do at the same time and collect data in multiple areas. The other option we have is the de-optimal design, and this is intended for those that don't have quite a large audience, but they want to know how to get statistically significant data. So this algorithm with de-optimal design will produce optimal number of tasks per respondent based on the sample size that you have to reach statistically significant data. So for instance, if you are sort of a new product that is new to the market and you don't have a lot of customers, but you want to use them for some research on new products that they would be interested in purchasing from you, then you can come to us with that number of data. So we've seen some as low as 50 to 100, and it works fine because you do the same kind of programming, and then we have an algorithm that determines whether or not you need to increase the number of tasks based on the attributes and levels that you've programmed in. And the last design that we do offer is an import design. So I put a caution on there because it is available for those who are statistically savvy, and you have to be able to calculate the error of margin on your own design. We're not responsible for that piece, so you do want to do that, and it is possible to download the information from our system. So we do give you the raw data in terms of what was shown and what was selected for each respondent and at what point that number of tasks what they were seeing. So you can go ahead and take care of that. You'll also be able to externally create the conjoint design and customize that and then import that right into our system using some standard variables for each of the levels and attributes that you are testing. And you can put it in the SPSS design format. So once you have the information, not only can you download it, but then you can also import it into other products that will take it, such as SPSS, and do some additional work as you need. This is really intended for those who are more advanced and they understand how to do different conjoint design options, such as fractional, factorial, orthogonal designs as well. But I would say out of all three, the first two are most popular, with the random design being the most popular out of everyone. So if this is your first time doing conjoint analysis of any kind, start with random design, keep it simple, and then as you continue to use this question type in your comprehensive survey, then you can start looking at other options, and Question Pro is available to you to help walk you through this process. So what time is conjoint o'clock? Usually the best time for those who want to run a discrete choice conjoint study are those that have business objectives to increase market share growth through new products and services that they're considering bringing to the market, or maybe repackaging existing services. That is a great time to see if your customer base or your target market share is looking, would be interested before actually bringing something to the market. It's also great during the beginning of the innovation process. And so when you're taking ideas and looking to put together a planning process and a product or service journey, this is a great time to set out, what are some key attributes that the consumer who is going to buy this would want to see in your tools. So my thought is that, if you are someone that's looking, that's in the VR or different kinds of emerging industries, and it's, these are hot buzzwords, with virtual reality potentially coming soon, I think the next step of that is to do a lot more conjoint analysis studies to see, what is it going to take on mainstream adoption. So during that innovation process, not only should they be creating, software and hardware tools to go along with this, but we should also be targeting those that would be interested in and having them tell us, at what point in terms of price, what types of products and what kinds of scenarios they would want to use these types of products and make it more as something that they want to adopt into everyday life. Third thing is that, anytime that you are doing any product or service planning and you're doing some prototyping, so if you are a company that is looking to upgrade things in any way, so even if it's little as like usability or giving people options for other services and everything as well, those are things that you can test and see. Conjoint analysis, even though it's really ran for consumer choice and purchasing, it does offer insights on, other things such as, how can we better position this? How can we better plan it? How can we better make it so that, we can make something that resonates with our prospective clients. And also, if you have any issues with costs and overhead and you want to look at the analysis between cost or overhead versus potential revenue, conjoint analysis can give you an idea of, what pricing point the customer is willing to pay for something relative to the services that are attached to a number or a price. And also, this will give you a chance to decide whether or not you would like to be able to, put a lot of investment in terms of overhead to bring these types of products and services to market. The last piece is when you have a statistically significant target audience. Again, conjoint analysis is only as good as the target audience that you have. It's good to make it as homogeneous as possible in terms of matching, your ideal customer profiles that are out there. So it's really important that, if you have access to a large group of customers or consumers at your whim, then, that is the second piece to really making a conjoint study very successful and useful for the innovation process or for new products and ideas. And so then again, discrete choice conjoint makes it kind of a no-brainer, and I would definitely recommend that to be an opportunity to turn on and use discrete choice conjoint. So let's go ahead and talk about some best practices in terms of how to get started and what things you want to do to get started with conjoint analysis. So a lot of times people just hear those words and it just sounds really scary, but it really isn't. Getting started is all about just being in a room together and talking, looking at the opportunities in terms of validating all your anecdotal information and hearsay. The first place you would start is by doing qualitative research. What is the open-ended feedback that you're getting from your customers? As well as, what are some trends that you're seeing in terms of the data from transactional information that you have access to. What is that telling you that you would need, and what are some pain points that you're seeing? And so you'll want to do, start off with what the voice of a customer is saying, and then from there be able to identify some top attributes and levels for the research study. You can even include a little bit of quantitative, but a lot of it will be driven by the voice, by what your frontline employees are hearing, as well as what your customers are saying directly to you. Again, other options that you can also do to get that kind of data is through focus groups or surveys with open-ended questions, as well as some closed-ended questions to help you define what your top attributes are that you do need for your study. Other things you can also do is also include like crowdsourcing tools or forums, such as through Question Pro's communities tool or idea form, as well as through other crowdsourcing tools like our sister product, IdeaScale. And from there, you'll be able to define the range and language of the target audience. And what that means is that you'll be able to understand at this point, what kind of information and how does your typical customer or customer profile, how do they look at the different products and how do they explain what these different things are? One of the things that's really hard when it comes to conjoint studies is that sometimes we'll put new products and tools and shiny things thinking that our customers know what they are, but maybe they define it differently. And so it's really important to do as much research as possible to understand the words and visualizations that resonate well with them, and use that as your base to begin building out a conjoint study. Second thing to get started, you'll want to keep your options really clear and simple. So when you are picking out all the different attributes from your conjoint study in terms of levels and tasks and different trade-offs, just keep it simple. That's like what we like to recommend. We would recommend no more than 20 trade-off exercises and no more than 5 or 6 attributes if you can. And so we'll show you where to add those in the system, and it will make more sense as we go along. As well as keep the ranges simple. You don't want the tool to have things that don't make sense. So if you are, for example, a vacation or an airline, which we'll be using later, like an airline, looking at different attributes of how people purchase airline tickets or vacation packages, you don't want to include too many bells and whistles, because then that will cause respondent fatigue. And that kind of goes into the next thing, which means that you'll want to follow general good online survey techniques. And what that means is, try to keep the survey as simple as possible, make it easy to read. use as much real estate on the survey if needed. If the survey question itself looks very convoluted, make sure to break the survey up in pieces, and make the survey smart by using different kind of logic designs that will resonate with particular respondents that answer questions in a certain way, and vice versa. And also, the other thing is it's really important to beta test your surveys before the official launch date. As someone who has been in the role of doing customer success management and working with different clients, for almost 10 years, I would say, launching a test is so important, because you just never know. Just because it looks good in front of you, sometimes going live, you just never know what's going to happen. So being able to set up a standard process of practicing a launch before it particularly goes, adding some data to the information, and seeing what that looks like potentially before official launches is always nice to do. And also, you'll want to practice good privacy and confidentiality protocols, and just making sure that when you're talking to respondents, that their information that they have is going to be used just for market research, is not going to be sold, those kinds of good things. And again, try as much as you can to keep the survey short and sweet. You can do this by, if you have information about a customer already, there's really no need to ask that additional information. So if you have the transactional data, if you're from Apple and you know that they purchased an iPhone and a laptop and, some headphones and everything like that, asking those things redundantly again wouldn't make sense, because we have that information. So we'd want to do some integration to make sure that that works, and that is possible with Question Pro as well. And last thing, of course, is if you do have to run a longer survey, make sure to thank the respondent by offering them any incentives or rewards, and just letting them know that you thank them for their time, because a lot of times people don't realize that the data that they're giving to you is actually a lot more valuable than they think. And so what we want to do is just some due diligence and give them back something for their time, especially if you are going to run a longer trade-off analysis survey, if you're going to make it very comprehensive, and you're doing like an NPS alongside conjoint analysis and the max diff and everything like that, which you can do. But you just want to make sure to thank them, because it does require some thinking, and respondent fatigue does happen. And if there's a motivation and an incentive to do the very best that they can, we want to make sure that we offer that to them. Other best practices that you'll want to take a look at is knowing what kind of sample size you're working with. So again, with your target audience, you'll want to make sure that you have access to the most homogeneous group of people that you have available to you. And Richard Johnson, which is one of the inventors of conjoint analysis, has presented the following rule of thumb for sample size in choice-based conjoint or discrete choice conjoint analysis, which is NTA divided by C is greater than 1,000. And that just means that when N equals the number of respondents times T, which is the number of tasks, times A, which is the number of alternatives per task, then the largest number, that equals the largest number level of attributes for any one attribute. So if you have, 500 respondents and there's 3 tasks per respondent, and you want to show 2 alternatives per task, which means if you want to show an apple or an orange, and the maximum number of levels for each type of apple and orange is 3, then you'll get the answer, which is 1,000, and that is a good number. Generally speaking, the sample sizes tend to be around 200 to 1,200 respondents, but we know that is a wide range, and for some reason, I don't know why, but 300 seems to be a very good number for statistically significant data, especially when the group is homogeneous in terms of customer or consumer profiles. So let's jump into the FAQs for analytics. So with Question Pro, we do offer 4 types of analysis options for you in terms of reporting. So the first type is the attribute importance, which shows you how much consumers are willing to spend for each feature that they're considering adding to their brand. And also parts worth analysis will also show you if a consumer is willing to exchange one feature for another. So for example, if price is one of those features, then we want to see in terms of price elasticity, how much more they're willing to pay for something in terms of value over another. If price is going to be that elastic, or is the other attributes going to be that. The other one is market share simulation. And what this does, it allows you to simulate market share potentials based on the conjoint data that was collected. And then what it will do is it will customize it based on these features and attributes that you had pre-programmed. And we'll walk through and show you all this in terms of what that would look like here shortly. The third item is the profile analysis. And what that does, it'll highlight in terms of the conjoint packages or tasks that you show, which one would perform best with your target audience that you had tested this on versus the worst. And then you'll also be able to customize the profile outlook. So for instance, if you are an airline looking to do some sort of a vacation package promotions, you can see which time, place, and number of stops perform the best and worst, depending on the locations that you're considering flying to. It also allows you to see what was shown to each respondent. So this is actually great for those who are doing some more orthogonal design, so they can look and see at task number 157, this went to this respondent, this is what they saw, and this is what they chose. So those are things that you can see from a profile analysis. And then the last piece is brand premium. And what that means is that you'll be able to see, how strong a brand or different attribute is relative to price. And that's based on the features and insights, again, collected, and you'll be able to switch and see how that looks like in the system. So what I'm going to do next is go ahead and jump into the example that I've built out. So you'll want to have a Question Pro's enterprise license to be able to access the conjoint question type. So if you don't have that already, definitely make sure to do that. And once you do, the very first thing you'll want to do after you've done your due diligence and finding out what your features and attributes are is to start building the conjoint question out. So all you'll need to do is click on Add Question, access the Add Questions or Advanced Questions, and go down to Conjoint Models and select Discrete Choice. From there, you'll be able to add the instructions and then type in each of the features here. And the more features that you have, the more levels will open up here. So for instance, for brand, we have brands for TVs. Here is Sony, LG, Vizio. Then you can just copy and paste the different levels that you're looking at for brands. Same thing with price. And if you're also looking at size, you can do that. And once you have that set up, then you can go down to the bottom where you can assess the task count that you want to put in. And for, we can have up to 30, 39 if you need to. And that just depends on, how much sample you have. Obviously, if you don't have a lot, you'll want to show more. So that's really up to you. At that point, I would just use the optimal design. And if you want to know concepts per task, that's the number of tasks per page or package options that they'll be able to see. We have up to 4. After that, it does get pretty hard for a person to sit and decide which one they want. So we're going to be in the cereal aisle trying to decide what box of cereal that we want, and it's going to take a little bit longer. There is an option for adding a no applicable choice. So if they just don't want anything, they could turn that on. However, my suggestion, especially with random design, is not to include that. I do think that is good to give them these, from what they have, what kind of options would have. Because if you are doing a not applicable, that just means that perhaps you haven't done enough research to really know, what the market share looks like, or what the market, the current industry is looking like, as well as, what possible attributes you're really bringing to the market. So I would say move away from it as possible, because if you do add it and they do select it, we just zero that out. So once you have your question, you can go ahead and save it. I'm going to go ahead and open up an example that I built out with random design, and so you can see what that looks like. So I added the option here where, when planning a trip to Hawaii from the Chicago-based area, which flight would you prefer? And considering that, United Airlines is a very interesting thing that's happening right now, and it's very big, top of mind. We want to know, whether or not, regardless of what's going on in the news, would they be able to open up a flight to Hawaii or not? And so we want to be able to ask them these questions and compare how they do against others, and grab that information and make a decision in terms of whether or not it would make sense to move forward and open up a new flight option for that area. So what I did was I went ahead and tested out not just United Airlines, but also through in Alaska, American, and also added the option of it doesn't matter, because for some people, it really doesn't matter. They also put in number of stops, pricing options, the different islands in Hawaii that they can possibly fly to, and then what time do they want to get to. I just kept the task counts and concepts per task very easy for now. And once we save that, then you'll also be able to add additional options that you can see. So here you'll be able to look at prohibited pairs, and prohibited pairs means whether or not you'll be able to limit what they see in terms of groupings. So for instance here, flying to Kauai at $500 is not an option. From in terms of overhead and costs, there's just absolutely no way that the airline would be willing to do that. And also for $500 doing a nonstop, from an overhead perspective, perhaps that might not be optional. I do like prohibited pairs, but I do recommend to, especially if it's your first time, not to use too many of them, because then you'll be stuck with not so many options. And I've worked with other conjoint designers out there, and they've always said that the more that you can open it, the more insights you'll be able to see. So we can make assumptions that, a flight to Kauai isn't feasible, but if the demand is high and there is no opportunity or no current market there, that becomes an operational question, like what could we do to make that happen? So those are things that you want to consider when adding it, if you need. Other things you can also do in addition to random design is you can also include some fixed tasks. And what that means is that if you for sure want to test and see, if I want United Airlines versus it doesn't matter, and then ask them if they, what this would be if I were to offer a choice, which one would do better. So you can just fill this out and ask them, like from what island and what time, what time do they want to travel, if there's one stop, what's going to be more significant for them. And so you can put this in front before it goes through the random design and save the question. So in addition to the random design algorithm that we run, you'll also be able to You'll also be able to look in and test a few fixed tasks as well. The other thing you can also do while you're inside here is that you can add some images and things as well. So if you want to turn this into a little bit more interactive, so you can add a logo and image if you need to, and access the information as you go. You could show it as a pop-up or have it popped up automatically, so it becomes more interactive as you test out different kinds of options. And it's especially good for brands, especially, as well as different activities. Some visualizations really do help. And what we do is we don't take the visualization images, we just take what you put in and then we'll use that for the output. So for the optimal design, I have this one below here, but I'll also show you where to change the design type. So for the first one, we always default to the random design. But once you've designed everything, you can go ahead and select the settings and click on validation and display settings. And what this does, it'll open up the design type. And here you'll be able to switch from random to de-optimal or import. And then from there, you'll be able to set up and simulate what that could possibly look like. So for random design, and you know that you have like up to 1,000 people, it'll give you a pretty good idea of how many times a particular level will be shown at every task. So keep that in mind. So with the de-optimal design below, what happens is that you'll be able to select what it is, and then you'll be able to go back and change the task count so that if you know that you're only working with 1,000 people and but you have like 5 or 10 tasks, then it'll be able to take the calculation and algorithm and say, well, you need to have at least 5 or 6 tasks and these many concepts per task to be shown for each person in order to get statistically significant data. So that's pretty nice to have that already built into the system so you don't have to guess too much. And of course, the last one is the import design. So what that will allow you to do is to go in and pick the import. And what this will do is will allow you to download a template, and then you can copy and paste this just for reference, but use these numbers here for each of the levels to program what that looks like in your template. So for example, let me open this. For example, for each attribute, they will be shown this task at this moment, and then move through the rest of them. So each column is a task number, and then you get to show the attribute as well. So you can go ahead and start with that and upload it. Again, this is more for advanced folks, so if you are interested in that, please let us know. We'll be happy to speak to you on it. But however, I wouldn't recommend it for those who are just starting out. I would start out with random design, and if you have a smaller group of audience, then the optimal design would be very, very good to start with. And in addition to doing a conjoint study, you can also access all of the standard and advanced question types. So if I wanted to segment the data based off of the last time someone flew or the reasons why they flew, I can do that as well. So that's pretty nice. So you can just access all the different question types here by selecting Add Question, and you'll be able to preview all the many different ones that we have, as well as all the advanced question types as well. So a very extensive program in addition to the way that we deliver the information. So if you need help with finding an audience to take your survey, we can do that with our Question Pro audience department. If you have a communities platform that you want to run this on or are looking to do that through Question Pro, we do offer that as well. And if you just want to post it as part of an intercept, capturing people during while they're on your website or anything like that, we do have ways to capture and grab their information and add their insights to this project that they're running as well. So that's really how to get started. And once you've built a comprehensive survey with lots of different question types and you have an audience and you've been collecting data, we can go ahead and take a look at the reports for this particular project. So let me just jump right over there. So we do have a quick dashboard that just shows you how many people looked at it, what's your response rate, and so on and so forth. But really, the star of the show for conjoint analysis is the choice modeling options that we have. So just click on conjoint analysis here. And here is where you'll get the 4 options to review and look at the data. So the very first one is the attribute importance. So we'll be able to look and see based off of the main attribute, which is time. And then you can see in terms of the different levels that you've included, evening for some reason out of Chicago seems to be more preferable, followed by the morning, midday, and afternoon. It looks like midday doesn't seem that great to people. Afternoon is less so. But if you're looking to add flight routes from Chicago to Hawaii, and adding them for morning or evening might be the best in this case. And that's how you'll be able to analyze, the utility values. And so that will really help them as well. So you'll also be able to see all the other question types as well. So if you have multiple conjoint questions, they'll all be on the same page in terms of the attributes. The second part here is the profiles. And so what we'll see here is the very best profile in terms of what's going to do the best. And then what's going to do the worst is over here. So you'll see just based off of the different attributes, American Airlines, nonstop, going to Maui in the evening seems to be the most popular, followed by the worst is Alaska, 2 stops, $7.50. Even though it's cheaper, people don't want to stop along the way. Going to Kauai wasn't as popular as going to Maui, and a midday flight didn't seem so great as well. The other great thing about this tool here is that you'll have the option to see, at what point this profile was shown and how well it did among the data that you've collected. So that is an option for you. And you'll also be able to see, like if this is a United Airlines, you'll be able to see what is United's best and worst options as well. And you can also switch that and add, what's the best nonstop option. And if I were to offer it at 500, but keep the islands open, keep the time open, what is the best and worst profile they can possibly go with? So it's a lot of really fun things that you can do. It's very interactive from this case, giving you the best and worst. And then here's all the simulated options that were selected and looked at, and all the different parts worth that were calculated according to the different profiles. And again, this information can be downloaded and analyzed and also used and to upload into tools like SPSS and etc. So the download options are available here. Market share simulations. This is, again, the tool that I would recommend for those who are looking to test new ideas against existing products to see how well the market share are doing. And what it does is it takes the data that you have collected and be able to do some simulations. So for instance, here I'm looking at 3 different United flights and looking at it from these different price points, going to Maui in the morning, but with different stops. What is that going to look like? So you can run a simulation, and then you'll see, based off of different concepts that we've presented, as well as the data that we've collected, we can say, the most market share option, or the one that will do the best, would be the first one, which is a non-stop for almost $1,000 to Maui in the morning. That just sounds really great. Followed by a non-stop or one-stop Maui, followed by a two-stop. So it's really interesting. So it sounds like when people are ready to go to Hawaii, they want to get there as quickly as possible, and they are willing to pay for it regardless of who they are. And you can also switch out so you can save this, and you can also add and switch out to others as well. So if you want to look at, different impressions of, Alaska versus United versus American versus it doesn't matter, you can switch those out and see how that changes across time. It would be interesting if this was a study that had to do with United and with all the recent things that were going on, whether or not people truly just don't want to fly them anymore, or if it doesn't matter because they just want to get a good price to go somewhere. So that's something that I think Conjoint can really open up and see. So no matter what, perhaps there is still a place for them to open up and consider a route over there, or not, especially with all the things that are considered right now. The last piece is brand premium. And so we're looking at price elasticity. And in order for you to have price elasticity, you absolutely have to include price brand in part and put it into the features and levels in the way that it will collect. And once you have that in the system and put it into that and turn it on under settings, then you'll be able to jump in here and then take the pricing question and test it on the right-hand side against the different attributes that you have. So if you want to see what airline is going to perform best and at what pricing point, you'll be able to see who those are. So for instance, here it looks like, Alaska, United, the pricing point changes right here, and then moving forward, you'll see who's going on top. And then you can add, based on stops. If you have more stops along the way, who's going to perform better? Obviously, non-stop flights, people are willing to pay premium versus the other options. And then if you need to look at pricing and islands, you can see that, it looks like Maui, followed by Oahu, followed by the Big Island, followed by Kauai, is how the pricing elasticity changes over time. So people are willing to pay a little bit more to go to the more popular islands, but then towards the end, there's the options at the 750 mark where people are willing to open up their options, and then again, it moves up even further. So I think that's really interesting that people see the changes over time, at different pricing points and at different attributes, the willingness to pay changes. So this is a really fun tool. Again, you'll do want to work and update the settings to ensure that you have pricing as part of the attributes that you want to test out, and then you can work on it. And again, if you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll be able to see, if you do run other conjoint designs, you can run different ones and look at brand premium from a different one, and also look at that side by side as well. So that's pretty interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to a few other questions that I know some people have. A lot of people will ask us, how do we come up with our numbers for parts worth calculation? And that is the fact that we use the maximum likelihood calculation coupled by a Nelder-Mead simplex algorithm. If you'd like to learn more, you can always, we'll have these slides and recordings available to you, and you can also click through and read a little bit more information about that. I won't bore you with the algorithm because it's actually not a difficult one. However, it is one that some people like to do a little bit of research to see if that is significant. So I would probably say It is more of the simpler algorithm out there for conjoint. But here at Question Pro, we like to use the KISS method, which is keeping it simple. And it has worked really well for a lot of our clients who are using conjoint analysis. The other question that we get a lot is that how can you use the market segmentation simulators? So again, being able to predict market shares on new products and concepts that may not exist now is a big part of what this market segmentation simulator is going to tell you. And it'll also be able to measure any gains or losses in market share based on the exchanges or changes between existing products that are given in the market. So the idea is that being able to identify profiles from different products or concepts to investigate in the pre-planning project before running a conjoint is very key to making the market segmentation simulator work for you. You also want to do some, reviewing any existing products in the market and establishing a baseline as well. And then also incorporate the new services and ideas that you have. Sometimes there's too many services and ideas, so we recommend really paring it down to the very minimum as you can so that you can do a comparison between the two and you'll be good to go. Okay, so I'm looking at a couple of questions here. It looks like I have a few questions, and they said that from someone named Anne, and she said, she's asking whether or not, since the conjoint is new, can I work with someone at Question Pro to help us put this together? And the answer is absolutely. If you want help or need help, you're more than welcome to reach out to myself as well as others in our customer success or enterprise support department, and we'll be able to walk through what your needs are. Even if you're just starting with the planning process, we can help you decide how to get to the attributes and levels that you need to begin. And then from there, we can also help with deploying the survey, sending it out, and then sending you the report as well. So a lot of this is DIY, but if you are very busy, which we know you are, you're more than welcome to work with us, and we'll be happy to help you with that. Obviously, there may be cost to that, so if you want to talk to us about it further, Anne, you're more than welcome to. Let's see if there's any other questions. So I have a question here. Can you show the preview of the questions? Yes, absolutely I can. Juan, thank you for that. I realized I didn't show you that, so let's go ahead and take a look at the experience of the survey. So to preview what this looks like, I just went ahead and put the banner of what United is looking at. This is their typical route. Currently, they don't have anything to Hawaii, so they'll want to test out and see what that is looking like. And this is just for reference, so you know what they're looking at below. Probably in a real conjoint study, you wouldn't have this up there. You keep it blind and see how United tests among their competition. And so that's the first setup. And so what a typical conjoint will look like is this. So they will see all the attributes that you're testing and all the levels, and all they'll need to do is pick between one or the other. So for me, definitely want to go to Maui because I'm interested in soft beaches. Click on there, and then it'll go through the next piece again. And then they can decide, which one they would like. So probably Maui over Kauai, that might be nice. And then here's a different option with the optimal design where, because of the size of the sample that I had, it recommended for me to open it up to 3 concepts to pick from. And then from there, I can decide where to go. So here, obviously, I wanted to pick one because I don't want too many stops. and same thing as well. So again, I just put this as a banner on top just for our purposes, but in the real survey, it will just show this by itself and show what the steps are here. And in addition to this, the survey is mobilely optimized. So if you do want to see what it looks like on a mobile phone and they can take the survey, you can have that done. And they can scroll through and and decide which one to do. And you could also do it on like an iPad as well. So there's a lot of different options as well in terms of delivering the data, and it will mobile optimize according to how they look at this. So if they want to move the iPad horizontally or so, then they can change the look and feel as they need. So here's this, and then they can pick and move on to the next. So that's a good question. Let's see if there's any other questions and we can wrap up. And of course, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask me and I'll be happy to reach out afterwards as well. So just to recap, I hope that this was very helpful for you and that you felt like now you can at least get started with the very basic conjoint analysis study using discrete choice conjoint. And now you also know when is the right time to conjoint a clock. So again, that would be when you need to do pricing analysis, preference analysis on new and existing products in the marketplace, when you're doing innovation and more. And of course, the other option is building a comprehensive insights project that does include conjoint as part of your study. So if you wanted to test product ideas and also get a perception of how United is doing despite everything that's going on, we can do that and say, of course they're not going to do well right now. A lot of people are mad or angry at them, and so they'll want to see, is there any opportunity to open up markets in this area or not? And so you can validate that with what people are saying, and also get the conjoint options available and look at those insights as well. And last but not least, anytime you need help, we're available to you. If you want to talk conjoint, get started, definitely contact sales, questionpro.com, or you can email me directly or talk to me on Twitter and hashtag K2SKP for conjoint o'clock QP, and we'll be happy to reach out to you afterwards. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up today. If you have any other questions or would like more information, we'll make sure to do a follow-up. And we'll go from there. So thank you so much for your time and have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.